It's tough starting out in life. And by starting out, I'm talking about like right after high school. For the purposes of this video, we are going to pretend that the world is not burning down around our ears and that life will go on somewhat as it has in some semblance or fashion thereof. That being said, here we go. It is tough starting out. You don't have anything and you don't know a whole lot. That isn't your fault. You're just young. For the most part, you have lived under mom and dad's roof, probably just mom's, sadly, or grandma and grandpa's, or probably just grandma's. That is not your fault either. From this point forward, that's on you, men. We're going to discuss both boys and girls, young men and young women. We're going to start with young men because I am one. I'm not young, but I'm a man. And well, don't you worry, we're going to get to the lady folk just here shortly. All right, so you're starting out. You don't have a whole lot. You don't necessarily know a whole lot. I'm not knocking anybody in any of this. I'm trying to help you. I made a lot of mistakes starting out. The sad part is I kind of knew better. I maybe didn't have all the information. I didn't have all the skills, but I knew what I was doing, where it was going. I just kept on because I didn't have a long-term plan, see. The trouble with that is, learn from the mistakes that I made. They're free. They don't cost you anything but a little bit of time watching this here video. So when you're starting out, there are certain things to know in advance that you cannot afford. Well, you cannot afford much of anything when you're starting out, but I'm talking about particulars. Self-sabotage, the things that will get you down and try to keep you down. And if you keep playing the same games, you're going to stay down. Make no mistake about it. We'll start with easy stuff. A boat. You can't afford a boat. If you're 30, you can't afford a boat. If you're 47, you can't afford a boat. Even if you can. Unless you're just Jimmy Buffett, minus the dead part. Your whole life is on the water. You can't afford a boat. Rent one. If it floats, flies, or fornicates, rent it. It's a money sink, it's a time sink, and you're going to use it. What are you going to use it? 5 months out of the year? Maybe, depending on your geographic location. You can't afford a boat, you don't need a boat. New vehicles. You cannot afford a new vehicle, and you darn sure can't afford a new vehicle now. What is the average? This is the nationwide average of vehicles right now, I believe, is somewhere around $46,000, $47,000. And a used vehicle, and I'm talking a year or two, the average price, I think, is around $35,000, $36,000. You can't afford it. Even if you can, you can't. If you figure it up, I get paid every other week, and I can make the payment, and you got full coverage insurance, and as a young person, they stick it to you. Also not your fault. It sucks. There is no two ways around that. You don't get any kind of break on insurance, even with a clean record, until you turn 25. Not my rules. I didn't make them up. I'm just telling you. You got a massive sales tax bill right off the hop. You don't want anybody to touch it or scratch it or park too close to it or get all of the things that are going to happen in everyday life. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Ideally, you'd want a crap vehicle, but a good crap vehicle. Toyota, Honda, longevity. Them cars will go half a forever with basic maintenance, and you're going to need to maintain it. I want you to maintain it. You should maintain it. And by having a crap vehicle, you will learn how to work on said crap vehicle because it's going to break down. And that's good. That is a life skill you will carry with you. So not only, yeah, it kind of sucks a little bit to come out in the morning and I'm running 2 minutes late and it won't start, but it's a lifetime skill that you have with you. You'll learn to change your own oil and your easy air filters. If you're into tire rotation, you're going to rotate the tires. You're going to change your own belts. You're going to change your own alternators. Learn these skills. Because why would you pay somebody $740 to change a serpentine belt that you can do with 7 minutes in your driveway and a socket set? You wouldn't. if you're wise. Houses. Houses are insanely expensive. Now that's about to change because this whole thing's going to crash. But as I said at the start, we're going to pretend that everything's going to go on kind of sort of as it has been. Just wait a little bit. You pick up a house for a couple peanuts. But anyway, in the meantime, you cannot afford a house in the United States. Unless you're knocking down $250,000 a year, you're going to gamble that you can make those payments for 30 years at 7.5% interest. It's not a good long-term strategy. That being said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Get some land now if possible. Maybe something where it's like, ideally it'd be like an owner finance type thing, or if you can't pay it off in one chunk, or you buy 5 acres up front and you have the option to add on to that. Some somewhat older fella's got, 100 acres, and he'll sell you an acre at a time and just keep adding over time. Land is the best investment you can make. They're not making any more of it that I'm aware of. As far as a house goes, you can build your own house. There's all kinds of videos right here on YouTube. Learn the skills. And if you're out of the city limits and you're out of a code restriction, trial and error, man. Learn the basics and start building. And I hate to use the term tiny house, but by that I mean 600 square feet, 700 square feet, somewhere up to 1,000 square feet. You don't need 3,200 square feet and 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and a 2 or 3 car garage. You don't have any stuff to fill it up with. You don't need that. Start small. Have a plan where you can add on later. A metal building is an ideal startup for a young person. Now you're in the dry. You can work in the rain. You can work at your own leisure. You can pick at it for an hour and a half when you get off of your day job and start standing up walls in there. And maybe you get them stood up, and even though you had a plan and it seemed right and everything, then you see it and you it's not, you can change it. And you can reuse the wood. In economic conditions like we have in this country right now, you'll want to build your own house. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. You also cannot afford the wrong woman. I cannot stress this enough. You cannot afford the wrong woman, whether that is dating, marrying, or any version or semblance thereof. You cannot afford it. There is nothing more disastrous to a young man's life than getting involved with the wrong woman. Don't do it. Having children, really before age, there's no set in stone age, but you don't want to do that before about age 24. You're still figuring yourself out a little bit. You're still getting your feet wet in the world. You don't want to start out having to care for another one and the stress that causes. I love my kids to death. But I was prepared when I had them. A man's not prepared when he's 19. You can do it. You can overcome it. But it's not the best idea ever if you can help it. And you can. Don't have kids starting out. You cannot afford consumer debt. I'm talking about credit cards or revolving charge accounts. The interest will eat your eyeballs out and you won't even realize it. Another thing you can't afford is college. You can probably afford some trade school, learn some skills, whatever those skills might be. Ideally, something in the trade, something, hopefully, ideally, that can't be easily eliminated by a robot or a computer or a chat GBRXT9. You know what I'm talking about. You can't afford college. This idea of prolonged adolescence is ridiculous. That's for movies and fairy tale and women. We're still getting there. You need to be working toward something. Even if that something is $1,000 saved. You're working towards that. And when you hit that, then maybe your goal becomes $2,500. and then maybe it becomes 5,000. Maybe it's not cash at all. Maybe it's tools. And you're going to accumulate these tools because you're going to use them. And tools are always worth money. You can always sell them. I don't recommend it, but you can. Be working toward something, toward a piece of property. You don't want to blow your whole paycheck and be waiting till the next time you get paid so you can go nuts and blow that because you've been without any kind of cash money for a couple, 4 days. Don't do it. The biggest thing that you want to be working towards is knowledge and skills, because those things take time, especially skills. Trial and error, practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You might fail 7 times, and on the 8th time you nail it. You will nail it if you're diligent, if you keep on. Those things may not be exactly free, but they're pretty darn close. You can go to pawn shop and yard sales and start out with a pretty solid set of tools. You have YouTube now. I didn't have YouTube. That's not my fault. I'm just saying there are resources available. Maybe you got an old man neighbor who's retired and he's got nothing else going on and he would love to show some young person how to do something. Then go ask. The worst thing they can say is, hell no, get off my property. Big deal, you ain't out nothing. Young women starting out, pretty simple. Stay thin. Be pleasant. Don't get tattoos. Stop having other men's children. Stop with the whole prolonged adolescence crap in college and the college experience. There's a lot of experiences I can have that don't cost $40,000 a year. Consumer debt, credit cards, student debt. You avoid all that stuff, or you maintain all that stuff, like staying thin and being pleasant. Got her made in the shade. Latch on to some aspiring young man that just happened to be walking by. He may not be the most exciting man on the block. He may not have a sports car and be a YouTube influencer, Instagram. That's the kind you want, because you can build a life together. It's not all show and flash and cameras. Hopefully he's got some skills. Build a team and stick with it and tough it out. That's my advice, man. I want to see you succeed if you're young. I want to see you get a long-term plan. And man, I saved $70 a paycheck for years and years and years. Now I'm 46 years old. I'm done working. Or I work when I want to work. Or I take on the jobs that I want to take on because I can. That's what it buys you. It buys you your independence and freedom. Think about it. Go back and watch this video again. And trust me on this one, because I know what I'm talking about. You don't want to be 58 years old and thinking, crap, I'm awful late in the game. What do I do now? 67 years old. Uh-oh. I have a 401k, but it's got $61,000 in it, and the markets are crapping out. Now what do I do? You don't want to be that guy or gal. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about. I appreciate you watching, and thank you for your time. I'll see you next time.